Thank you very much, Dr. Farooq. And you all have listened extensively to the views, very analytical comments made by Dr. Chandra, Dr. Junaid, and Dr. Farooq. So, being the last difficult speaker is going to be very difficult for me, but I'll try. I think, unfortunately, I agree with all the points made by the earlier speakers. Unfortunately, we are caught in these three very difficult situations. On the one hand, we have the traditional problems with the West and the current attitude of the West, Islamophobia and others, the narrative of the West against Islam. And then you have to deal with Islamist own extremist groups who have, in a way, taken advantage of the situation, the unhappiness of the West, the historical problem with the West, and also problems within the Malaysian, the Islamic societies with their own governments. The marginalization is not only taking place in Europe, in the US, which explained Trump's victory, but also in the Muslim world. So the marginalization of the Muslims in the Muslim world also driven the Islamic own extremist groups. And then we have the third problem, which is the increasing dictatorial tendencies amongst Muslim governments, using the war on terror and extremism to go after all forms of dissent. You can see that happening in many, many Muslim countries. And I mean, it's so easily to just pick one or two, which are not, you know. I just came back from Istanbul conference, and the way they dehumanize the Gulen group is frightening. They call it the FETA. FETA, which is come out this general accusation that the Gulen group is a terrorist group. FETA does not even exist as an organization, you know. And the way they are going after supporters of FETA and beyond that, practically killing all forms of democratic organizations, institutions, and groups that's left in Turkey. It's unfortunate. They're moving from one extreme, which Dr. Chandra described just now, of Kemalist anti-Islam attitude, to now being Islamic dictatorship. So, as I said, we have these three challenges. And then there is, of course, the politicalization and exploitation of Sunni Shia sectarianism, schism, both by extremist groups and governments to further their own goals. And I think it is important for countries in our region, in the world, in the Nusantara world, not to be caught in this power struggle and in this what could be a proxy war between the Saudis and the Iranians. I'm personally worried that of certain views taken by the authorities and religious groups in Malaysia against the Shias, the intolerance. We may well be caught in this proxy war between the Saudis and the Iranians. And therefore, it is very important for scholars and civil society organizations, NGOs, not to be involved and further aggravate the conflict between the Sunnis and the Shias in Malaysia. What is needed is spirit, the revival of the spirit of the Aman message and the Wasatiyah. This is missing from current main discourse in the Muslim world, particularly between state to state dialogue. So we need to work towards peace and unity amongst us Muslims. And as I said, we need to revive the spirit of Aman message and Wasatiyah. And in this regard, G25 and hopefully with IRF and JAS, I'm working with Said Farid Al-Atas to bring Prince Ghazi of Jordan, who's the author of the draft of the Aman message, to Malaysia next year to talk about the need for unity in the Muslim world. At the recent conference which I attended in Istanbul, a group of Turkish NGOs proposed the setting up of a network of Islamic civil society organizations and NGOs to come together, to get involved in a dialogue, discourse, and to work towards addressing the very many serious problems facing the Muslim world, including the need to address the problem of Islamophobia. And at that conference, I expressed my support in the initiative, especially when the OIC at the state-to-state level has basically failed. The OIC is so hopelessly divided, and the Saudis have got their own very clear agenda, that we have not been able to help. The OIC has been totally ineffective. And this calls for Muslim civil society organizations and NGOs to be more active, to fill in this vacuum which the states have failed. But I did point it out to the conference that this effort must not lead to further division within the Muslim world. Of course, the idea is to bring about unity within the Muslim world, which we badly need. But it is important, since this initiative is taken by Turkey and not by Saudi Arabia or others, or another Arab country, that this would not lead to further disunity in the Muslim world. And I also said that it is important that this effort by the civil society organization should be an independent effort and not be influenced by dominating state influence and role. Because the trouble in Muslim countries that because of the lack of democracy, lack of space for non-state actors, I wonder how this proposal by the Turkish group of CSOs can really bring about an active, independent group of civil society organizations within the Muslim world. It is also interesting at that conference because we were also discussing about extremism and secularism and sectarianism in the Muslim world. And one scholar from Iran, Dr. Javed, pointed out that the closing of the Muslim mind has a lot to do with many of the problems we have today. That Muslims are discouraged from using reason in many countries by various schools of thoughts in Islam. And ijtihad is not encouraged. And there's a lot of talk about revival mahasid and wasatiyah, but we don't see real action, both by governments and by Muslim non-state actors. I think we need to revive reason. We need to allow for ijtihad and for the revival of Maqasid and Wasatiyah. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.